Say everyone dies twice. Once when your heart stops, and again when someone speaks your name for the last time. Elena Carvalho died her first death at 7 years old, killed by leukemia that should have taken her in 3 months. But her father made a deal with something ancient and hungry, trading her soul for 21 more years of borrowed time. Now, 72 hours before her 28th birthday, she's dying again. And this time, there's a man with impossible eyes standing in her hospital hallway, sent to kill her before the demons can claim what they're owed. His name is Azrael, half angel, half demon, all agony. For 500 years he's been executing people like Elena. Mercy kills, he calls them, ending lives quickly before hell can hollow them out and wear them like suits. He's done this 12 times before. 12 bodies. 12 failures that haunt him every waking moment. He should kill her now. Fast. Painless. One more ghost to add to his collection. But when Elena looks at him, really sees him, the war raging behind those gold and red eyes, she whispers 6 words that shatter 5 centuries of certainty. You don't want to do this. And she's right. So Azrael offers her the only choice he has left, a blood pact that will bind their souls together, saving her from demons, but condemning them both to something far more dangerous. Because the moment their blood touches, Elena will feel everything, every kill, every fragment of his fractured soul, every second of the endless war between angel and demon tearing him apart from the inside. She'll have 30 days to do what no one has done in over 500 years, stabilize a Nephilim's shattered existence before the Celestials hunt them both down and erase them from reality. 30 days to save a man who spent centuries believing he doesn't deserve to be saved. 30 days before her humanity burns away completely and she becomes something the universe has never seen before. The mark is already burning into her chest. The transformation has already begun. And as Elena watches her reflection start to change, eyes brightening with gold and crimson, something pressing against her shoulder blades trying to break through skin, she realizes the most terrifying truth of all. She's not afraid of becoming a monster. She's afraid of how much she's willing to sacrifice to love one. The letter arrived on a Tuesday, 3 days before Elena Carvalho's 28th birthday. 3 days before she was supposed to die. She didn't know that yet. All she knew was that her hands were shaking as she stared at the crimson wax seal, still intact after God knows how long in her father's safety deposit box. The bank manager had apologized profusely when he handed her the small metal container. "We're so sorry for your loss, Miss Carvalho. Your father was very specific in his instructions. This was to be delivered to you exactly 6 months after his passing." 6 months. Her father had been dead for 6 months, and she still couldn't walk past his bedroom without her throat closing up. Elena broke the seal. The paper inside was old, thick parchment that felt wrong against her fingers. Too smooth, too cold. The handwriting was her father's, but shaky, desperate. "Minha filha, if you're reading this, I'm already gone, and I'm so sorry. When you were 7 years old, you got sick. The doctors said leukemia. Stage 4. They gave you 3 months. I couldn't watch you die, Elena, so I made a deal." Her vision blurred. She remembered being sick, remembered the hospital, the needles, her father's face gaunt with sleeplessness as he sat by her bed night after night. She remembered waking up one morning and the pain was just gone. The doctors called it a miracle. Spontaneous remission, they said. 1 in a million. I sold your soul, baby girl, to something that called itself Marcosius. A demon. I know how insane this sounds. I know you'll think the cancer ate my brain before it took my lungs. But it's real. The contract comes due on your 28th birthday. 72 hours before midnight, they'll come for you. I've spent 21 years trying to find a way to break it. I failed. I'm so sorry. I'm a coward. I'm dying before I have to watch them take you. Forgive me. Please forgive me." The letter slipped from her hands. No, this was insane. Her father had been on so much morphine at the end, hallucinating, talking to people who weren't there. This was just more of that. Deathbed paranoia written down. Except Elena had always seen things. Shadows that moved wrong. Figures standing in doorways that disappeared when she blinked. Whispers in languages she didn't understand when she walked through the old cathedral downtown. She'd learned to ignore it. Learned to pretend she was normal. Her phone buzzed. A text from her coworker. "Where are you? Your shift started 20 minutes ago." The hospital. She had to get to work. She was already drowning in her father's medical debt, her own student loans, the mortgage on his house that was now hers. She couldn't afford to lose this job. Elena shoved the letter in her purse and ran. She made it through exactly 4 hours of her shift before she saw him. He was standing at the end of the hallway on the 7th floor, just outside room 712 where Mrs. Patterson was dying of heart failure. Visiting hours were over. The floor was empty except for Elena doing her rounds. He shouldn't have been there. But that wasn't what made her freeze. Medication cart half pushed, breath catching in her throat. It was his eyes. His left eye was gold, pure, luminous gold, like sunlight through honey. His right eye was red, not bloodshot. Red, deep crimson that seemed to glow in the fluorescent hospital lighting. And he was looking directly at her. Elena's fingers went numb. The cart rolled forward slightly, wheels squeaking. The sound seemed to echo forever in the empty hallway. He didn't move, just watched her with those impossible eyes. His face expressionless. He was tall, maybe 6'2", wearing a long black coat that didn't quite hide the strange way shadows seemed to pool around his feet. His features were sharp, almost beautiful. But there was something wrong about him. Something that made her hindbrain scream predator. She should run. Call security. Do something. Instead, she heard herself whisper, "Who are you?" His head tilted slightly. When he spoke, his voice was rough, like he hadn't used it in a very long time. "You can see me." It wasn't a question. Elena's mouth was dry. Should I not be able to? Something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe. Or was it pain? The gold eye seemed to brighten for just a second, while the red one dimmed, and she could swear she saw his jaw clench like he was fighting something internal. "No," he said quietly. "You shouldn't." He took a step toward her. Elena's body finally listened to her. Brain. She grabbed the cart, started to turn, to run, but his voice stopped her cold. 72 hours. Her blood turned to ice. "How do you know about that?" The words came out as a hiss. "What the hell are you?" "I'm the one they sent to make sure the contract is fulfilled." His expression didn't change, but she saw his hands curl into fists at his sides. "I'm the one who's been watching you for the last 3 days, trying to figure out the fastest way to kill you. Trying to decide if I should make it hurt less." The hallway spun. Elena's back hit the wall, her legs suddenly unable to hold her weight. "You're going to kill me." It should have been a question. It came out flat, numb. "Yes." "Why?" Her voice cracked. "Why does it have to be you? Why not just let them come?" For the first time, emotion crossed his face. And God, it was awful. Anguish, self-loathing, rage directed entirely inward. Because if the demons collect you, they'll use you. You're sensitive. You can see. Through the veil between worlds. Do you understand what that means? He took another step closer, and she could feel heat radiating from his right side, cold from his left, like standing between a furnace and a freezer. They'll torture the information out of you. Names, locations, every Nephilim hiding in human skin, every angel walking the earth, every thin place where the barriers are weak. And then they'll hollow you out and wear you like a suit, using your body to hunt more sensitives, more Souls, forever. Nephilim, Elena breathed. You're Nephilim. His jaw tightened. Half angel, half demon, all abomination. And you're going to murder me to save me from a worse fate. Her laugh was borderline hysterical. How noble. I never said I was noble. The red eye flared brighter. I've done this 12 times before. 12 sensitives whose parents made desperate deals. 12 mercy kills before demons could claim them. I stopped counting how many pieces my soul breaks into every time. 12. He'd killed 12 people like her. Elena should be terrified, should be screaming, but all she felt was a strange, distant calm settling over her. Maybe shock, maybe acceptance. Do it then, she heard herself say. If you're going to do it, just make it quick, please. He went completely still. Then so quietly she almost didn't hear it. You're not going to run? Where would I go? Tears were streaming down her face now, hot and fast. You said 72 hours. Even if I... Run! They're coming! You're coming! Someone's coming! I'm already dead. She watched something shift behind those mismatched eyes. The gold brightened again, pushing back the red, and his whole body shuddered like he was being torn apart from the inside. There's another way. Elena's breath stopped. What? His hands were shaking now. Actually shaking. A blood pact. Between us. If I mark you as mine before the contract comes due, the demons can't touch you. They can't claim what's already claimed. Hope flared so sharp and sudden it physically hurt. Then do it. Please, just... You don't understand. He cut her off, voice ragged. The pact would bind us. Permanently. You'd feel everything I feel. Every time the demon half tries to take control. Every time I've killed. Every time I will kill. And they'll hunt us both. Celestials will execute me for choosing a human over divine orders. Demons will come for you anyway, trying to break the pact. We'd be fugitives. Forever. I don't care. The words tore out of her. I don't want to die. I don't want to be used. If there's a chance, any chance, you should care. His voice broke. I'm not saving you, Elena. I'm condemning you to something worse. She looked at him. Really looked. Saw the war raging behind those impossible eyes. Saw a being so fractured he was holding himself together with sheer will. Saw someone who'd killed 12 people and hated himself for every single one. Saw someone who'd just offered her the only choice he could. What's your name? She whispered. He blinked, clearly not expecting the question. Azrael. Azrael. She pushed herself off the wall, legs steadier than they should be. Walked toward him even though every instinct screamed to run. I've been dead for 21 years. My father sold me before I was old enough to understand what life meant. If you're offering me a chance to actually live, even if it's running, even if it's pain, even if it's bound to you. She stopped right in front of him, close enough to feel that impossible heat cold radiating from his body. I'll take it. His eyes widened. The gold completely overtook the red for just a moment, and she saw him fully then. Not a monster, just someone unbearably, devastatingly tired. You're sure? It was barely a whisper. I'm sure. Azrael closed his eyes, took a shaking breath. When he opened them again, both eyes were burning gold and red simultaneously, swirling together like fire and blood. Then we do. This now. The mark takes time to set. We have 70 hours left. He pulled a small blade from inside his coat. The metal gleamed silver in the harsh hospital lights. Elena held out her hand. The blade cut clean through Elena's palm before she could fully register the pain. Azrael moved with surgical precision, opening a matching wound on his own hand without so much as a flinch. Blood welled up, dark red on her skin. But his blood was wrong. It shimmered, half gold and half crimson. The two colors refusing to fully mix, swirling against each other like oil and water. We need privacy, he said, voice tight. Somewhere warded. The moment our blood touches, every supernatural creature within a 5-mile radius will feel it. Elena's hand was already throbbing, warm blood dripping onto the pristine hospital floor. My apartment. It's 10 minutes from here. Too far. They're already circling. His mismatched eyes darted to the window at the end of the hall. Can you feel them? And God help her, she could. A pressure building against her skull, like the air before a thunderstorm. Whispers in that language she'd heard her whole life but never understood, growing louder, closer, hungry. The chapel, she gasped. Basement level. It's old, built over older foundations. My friend in maintenance says there are symbols carved into the stones down there, protection marks from when this place was a monastery. Azriel's eyes snapped to hers. Show me. Now. They ran. Elena's shoes squeaked against linoleum as they flew down the emergency stairwell, her bloody hand leaving a trail of red on the railing. Azriel moved like liquid shadow beside her, his coat billowing even though there was no wind. The temperature around him kept fluctuating wildly. Furnace heat 1 second. Arctic cold the next. She could hear him breathing hard, and it sounded painful, ragged, like his lungs were fighting themselves. What's happening to you? She asked as they hit the basement level. The angel half knows what I'm about to do. It's trying to stop me. His voice came out strained. It's been trying to stop me since the moment I decided not to kill you. The chapel was small, barely more than a meditation room with a few pews and a simple altar. But the walls were old stone, and when Elena's eyes adjusted to the dim light, she could see them. Symbols etched deep into the rock. Circles overlapping triangles overlapping stars. Some she recognized from her father's old books. Others looked ancient, almost alien. Azriel's hand shot out, slamming the door behind them. He pressed his bleeding palm against the wood and muttered something in that same incomprehensible language. Light flared, gold and red braided together, and Elena felt the pressure in her skull suddenly release, like a door slamming shut between her and something vast and terrible. That won't hold long, he said, turning to face her. Sweat beaded on his forehead. His hands were shaking worse now. 10 minutes. Maybe 15 if we're lucky. Then tell me what to do. He crossed the small space between them in 2 strides, grabbing her bleeding hand with his own. The moment their wounds touched, Elena's knees buckled. Heat and ice shot up her arm, branching through her veins like lightning, and she could feel him. Not physically. Deeper than that. She could feel the war raging inside him, 2 halves trying to tear him apart, screaming at each other in voices that made her bones ache. Oh, God, she choked out. How are you even standing? Practice. His grip tightened. This is what you'll feel. Every moment, every day. The bond doesn't fade. It only gets stronger. I said I could handle it. You haven't felt the worst part yet. He pressed their joined hands against her chest, directly over her heart. His other hand came up to mirror the position on his own chest. When he spoke again, his voice had changed, layered, like multiple beings speaking through one throat. By blood freely. Given by choice unmade by force, I claim this soul as bound to mine. Let no infernal hand touch what bears my mark. Let no celestial blade strike what I have chosen to protect. We are 2 made one, separate but entwined, until death or damnation parts us. The words burned. Not metaphorically. They literally burned, searing into Elena's chest like a brand pressed against flesh. She tried to scream, but no sound came out. Her throat locked tight as something fundamental inside her shifted. Cracked. Reformed. She could feel Azriel's presence flooding in, overwhelming, his pain and guilt and self-loathing and something else. Something he was desperately trying to hide. Terror. He was absolutely terrified. Not of what was happening, of what he was doing to her. The burning intensified. Elena's vision whited out, and for one horrible moment, She wasn't in her own body anymore. She was standing in a stone courtyard centuries ago, watching a small girl with dark curls screams. Celestial fire consumed her. She was kneeling in an alley, blade wet with blood that belonged to someone who'd begged for mercy. She was alone in the dark for so long, so unbearably long, waiting for the war inside to finally kill her. Then she was back, gasping, on her knees on the cold chapel floor with Azrael's arms around her, holding her up. "Breathe," he was saying, over and over. "Just breathe, Elena. Stay with me." She dragged air into her lungs. It tasted like ozone and copper. When she looked down at her chest, her shirt had burned away in a perfect circle over her heart, revealing skin that now bore a mark. It looked like a scar, but it moved, gold and red light pulsing beneath the surface in time with her heartbeat. "Is it done?" Her voice came out wrecked. "It's done." He pulled back, and she saw that his chest bore an identical mark, visible through the burned hole in his shirt. "You're mine now. The contract with Marcosius is void. You're safe from demons. But not from angels." His expression went carefully blank. "No, not from angels." Elena tried to stand. Her legs were gelatin, but Azrael caught her, steadying her with hands that were no longer shaking. The tremors had transferred to her now. She was vibrating like a live wire, excess energy from the ritual coursing through her system with nowhere to go. "The bond needs to stabilize," Azrael said quietly. "It'll take hours, maybe a day. Until then, you'll feel everything amplified. My emotions, my pain, all of it." As if on cue, a wave of nausea hit her so hard she doubled over. But it wasn't hers, it was his. She could feel sickness roiling in his gut, self-disgust so thick and viscous it was almost solid. "You hate yourself," she whispered, "for binding me. I just did to you what was done to me." His voice was hollow. "Took away your choice. Marked you without asking if you truly understood what you were accepting. Made you an abomination. I chose this. You chose survival. That's not the same as consent." Before Elena could respond, the symbols on the walls flared bright red. Azrael's head snapped toward the door, his entire body going rigid. "They're here," he breathed. "Faster than I thought." "Demons?" "Worse." The gold in his eyes flickered, nearly drowning in crimson. "Celestials. 3 of them. They felt the ritual. They know what I've done." Elena's heart hammered against her ribs, making the mark on her chest pulse faster. "What do we do?" Azrael moved to the door, pressing his palm against it again. She watched the muscles in his back bunch beneath his shirt, watched shadows pour off him like smoke while light crackled around his hands. He was using both sides of his nature at once, and she could feel through the bond how much it cost him. It felt like being ripped in half. "There's a service tunnel behind the altar," he said without turning around. "It leads to the parking garage. My car is in space 47, black Charger. Keys are in my coat pocket. Take them." "What? No. I'm not leaving you." "Yes, you are." His voice went hard. Command, not request. "The bond is fresh. If they kill me in the next few hours, it might not take you with me. But if you stay, they'll kill you just for being marked. You're evidence of my disobedience. They'll erase you." "Azrael, go." The door exploded inward. Light poured through the opening, so bright it burned to look at directly. 3 figures stood silhouetted in the doorway, and even though Elena couldn't see their faces, she could feel their presence crushing down on her, making her bones creak with the weight of their judgment. Azrael. The voice that spoke was beautiful and terrible, neither male nor female, perfectly neutral, and absolutely merciless. "You were sent to fulfill the contract. Instead, you've broken divine law. You've claimed a human soul for yourself. Explain." Azrael didn't move, didn't turn around. But Elena felt his answer through the bond before he spoke it aloud. felt his resignation, his acceptance of what came next. I don't owe you an explanation, Ramiel. I made my choice. Then you've chosen death. The angel moved faster than Elena's eyes could track. One moment it was in the doorway. The next it was on Azrael, a blade of pure light driving toward his chest where the mark pulsed gold and red. Elena didn't think, didn't plan. She just moved, throwing herself between them, her hands coming up instinctively. The blade stopped an inch from her palms, held back by nothing, by air, by something inside her that had awakened the moment the pact was sealed. "Don't touch him," she heard herself say, and her voice wasn't entirely her own anymore. "He's mine." The blade of light hovering an inch from Elena's palms didn't waver, but the angel wielding it tilted its head in what might have been curiosity. Up close, Ramiel was almost painful to perceive. Its features kept shifting, never quite settling into anything human, and its eyes were the color of winter sky, cold, distant, pitiless. "Interesting," Ramiel said, voice still that unsettling neutral tone. "The mark has already taken root. She carries your protection instinctively." Behind her, Elena felt Azrael's shock ripple through the bond, followed immediately by horror. "Elena, get back. You don't know what you're doing." "I know exactly what I'm doing." The words came from somewhere deep inside her, some primal part that had awakened when their blood mixed. "He's under my protection. Now, you don't get to hurt him." One of the other angels laughed. It sounded like breaking glass. A human, protecting a Nephilim. From us. The second angel stepped forward, and this one had chosen a more defined form, male presenting, with features carved from marble and eyes like molten gold. "Do you understand what you're standing in front of, little soul? He's killed 12 of your kind. 12 humans who'd done nothing wrong except be born sensitive. He cut their throats to spare them from demons. But dead is dead. He's a murderer." The words hit Elena like physical blows, but she didn't move. Couldn't move. Because through the bond, she felt Azrael's response to the accusation. Not denial, but acceptance. Guilt so crushing it made her ribcage ache. He believed he was a murderer. Had believed it for decades. Maybe centuries. "I know what he's done," Elena said quietly. "I felt it. When we bonded. I felt every single one. Then you know he deserves execution. I know he's suffered. For it every day since." Her hands were still raised, still somehow holding back Ramiel's blade, even though she had no idea how. Power thrummed through her veins. Foreign, but somehow right. Like remembering how to use muscles she'd never known she had. "He could have killed me 3 days ago. Could have made it quick, clean, merciful like the others. Instead, he offered me a choice. He condemned himself to save me." "He condemned you both," Ramiel corrected. "The bond you share is forbidden. Humans and Nephilim cannot mix. It creates instability, unpredictability. You're already changing, can't you feel it? In a week, you'll be neither human nor angel nor demon. You'll be something new, something we have no protocol for." Elena could feel it. The mark on her chest pulsed with each heartbeat, sending tendrils of gold and red deeper into her system. Her senses were sharper than they'd been an hour ago. She could see the way reality bent around the angels, could smell the ozone and frankincense that clung to them, could taste their contempt on her tongue. "Then update your protocols," she shot back. The third angel, who'd been silent until now, finally spoke. Its voice was softer than the others, almost gentle. Almost. "Child, you don't understand what you're asking. The bond will consume you. Azrael's duality will tear you apart from the inside. You felt his memories, yes, but you didn't feel the weight of them. 537 years of war between angel and demon, all contained in one body. No human mind can withstand that pressure. You'll fracture, shatter, cease to be yourself. Or," Azrael's voice came from behind her, rough and broken, "she'll be the first one strong enough to survive it. Elena glanced back. He was still pressed against the door, using his body to keep it reinforced against whatever else was trying to get in. Blood trickled from his nose, the cost of fighting his own nature while channeling both halves of his power simultaneously. But his eyes met hers, and in them she saw something she hadn't expected. Hope. Fragile and terrified, but real. 537 years, Elena repeated, turning back to the angels. That's how long he's been at war with himself? Since the moment of his creation, Ramiel confirmed. Nephilim are born in agony. They die in agony. The time between is just prolonged suffering. Then maybe it's time someone helped end that suffering without ending the life attached to it. Silence. Heavy and absolute. Then Ramiel did something Elena didn't expect. It lowered its blade. You truly believe you can stabilize him? Not a question, an observation. I don't know, Elena admitted, but I'm going to try. And if you kill us before I get the chance, you'll never know if it was possible. The angel who'd called Azrael a murderer made a sound of disgust. Ramiel, you can't seriously be considering. She has a point, Cassiel. Ramiel's blade dissolved into particles of light that faded like dying stars. We've executed 247 Nephilim in the last century alone. Not one has ever been stabilized. Not one has ever found peace. If there's even a possibility that a human bond could provide what we cannot. It paused, those shifting features settling briefly into something almost sad. Perhaps we owe it to them to see. This is heresy, Cassiel spat. This is mercy, the third angel countered softly. Something we claim to embody, but rarely practice. Ramiel studied Elena for a long moment, and she forced herself not to look away, not to flinch under that terrible gaze. Finally, it spoke again. We will give you 30 days, 1 lunar cycle. If, at the end of that time, Azrael shows signs of stabilization, if his duality lessens, if his suffering decreases, if he demonstrates control rather than constant war, we will reconsider his execution. The angel's eyes shifted to Azrael. But if he harms her, if the bond breaks her, mind, if she becomes collateral damage to your existence, we will end you both. Understood? Azrael's voice was barely a whisper. Understood. And during these 30 days, Cassiel added sharply, you're both marked as fugitives. Any celestial or infernal who finds you has the right to kill you on sight. We won't stop them. We won't interfere. You're on your own. We've been on our own since the moment the pact was sealed, Elena said. 30 days is more than I thought we'd get. Ramiel inclined its head slightly. Use them wisely, human. You're attempting something that's never been done. The odds of your success are approximately 3,742 to 1. I've survived worse odds. Elena thought of being 7 years old, dying of leukemia, given 3 months to live. I'm still here, aren't I? Something that might have been approval flickered across Ramiel's shifting features. Then all 3 angels simply weren't. They didn't walk away. Didn't teleport in a flash of light. One moment they occupied space. The next moment they were memory. The door behind Azrael stopped shaking. Whatever had been trying to break in from the other side had apparently gotten the message. Elena's legs gave out. Azrael caught her before she hit the ground, moving with that impossible Nephilim speed. He sank to his knees, cradling her against his chest, and she could feel his heart hammering against her back, could feel the adrenaline and terror and shock pouring through the bond. What the hell did you just do? His voice cracked. You stood between me and a celestial execution squad. You could have died. You should have died. That blade would have cut through you like you were made of smoke. But it didn't. Elena's whole body was shaking now, delayed reaction setting in. Why didn't it? The bond. His arms tightened around her. It's stronger than it should be. You're already channeling my power without meaning to. When you raised your hands, you instinctively created a ward. My ward. Like you've been doing it for centuries. Is that normal? Nothing about this is normal. He pressed his forehead against the top of her head, and she felt his breath shuddering out. Elena, they gave us 30 days. 30 days to do something that's never been done in over 500 years. Do you understand how impossible? Stop. She turned in his arms, forcing him to look at her. His eyes were still swirling gold and red, but the red seemed slightly less prominent than before. Or maybe that was wishful thinking. I don't care about odds. I don't care about what's never been done. I care about the fact that you're in pain. Constantly. And I can feel it now. I can feel you tearing yourself apart. And I'm not going to just sit here and let it happen. You can't fix me. Maybe not. But I can try to help you stop fighting yourself. She reached up, pressing her palm flat against his chest where the mark pulsed. Immediately she felt the connection between them flare brighter, felt the tangled mess of his emotions more clearly. What if you stopped trying to suppress one side or the other? What if you let them both exist without making them enemies? Azrael's laugh was bitter. You make it sound simple. I know it's not. But you've spent 537 years trying to strangle half of who you are. Maybe it's time to try something different. He stared at her, and in his eyes she saw the same desperate hope from before, fighting against crushing disbelief. You really think it's possible? I think we won't know unless we try. Elena managed a shaky smile. Besides, we've got 30 whole days. That's practically forever. 30 days until they hunt us down and execute us both. Then we'd better not waste them. For the first time since she'd met him 4 hours ago, Azrael smiled. It was small, fragile, and looked like it hurt. But it was real. You're insane, he said softly. Probably. Elena's mark flared warm beneath her palm. But so are you. We'll figure it out together. They made it to Azrael's car in the parking garage without incident, though Elena's legs barely cooperated and her vision kept doubling. The bond was still settling, sending waves of disorientation through her system every few minutes. One moment she felt like herself. The next she was drowning in sensations that weren't hers. The phantom taste of ash on her tongue, the memory of wings she'd never had, the crushing weight of crimes committed centuries before she was born. It'll stabilize, Azrael said, as he guided her into the passenger seat. His hand on her elbow was steady, but through the bond she felt his terror. The first 24 hours are the worst. Your nervous system is trying to process 500 years of memories that aren't yours. It's like downloading an ocean into a teacup. Comforting analogy, Elena muttered, fumbling with the seatbelt. Her fingers felt wrong, like they belonged to someone else. He slid into the driver's seat and the engine roared to life. We need to get off the grid. My apartment is compromised. Yours definitely is. They'll be watching every place you've ever lived, every person you've ever known. So where do we go? Somewhere old. Somewhere with enough residual faith that Celestials can't track us easily. He pulled out of the garage, tires squealing. I know a place. Abandoned monastery about 2 hours north. The monks who lived there spent 3 centuries praying for protection. That kind of devotion leaves marks reality can't quite erase. Elena leaned her head against the window, watching the city lights blur past. It was past midnight now. They'd been bonded for less than 6 hours. She had 29 days and 18 hours left to do the impossible. Tell me about the first one, she said quietly. Azrael's hands tightened on the steering wheel. What? The first person you killed. The first mercy kill. She turned to look at him. You felt them all flood into me during the bonding, but I only caught fragments. I want to know the whole story. Elena, if I'm going to help stabilize you, I need to understand. All of it. Not just the guilt. The why. He was silent for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then softly. Her name was Rebecca. She was 19. Her mother had sold her soul to save Rebecca's younger brother from drowning. The boy lived. Rebecca got 10 years before collection. Elena waited. Through the bond, she felt him gathering the courage to continue. Felt old wounds tearing open. She knew what was coming. Had known since she was 9 years old. Spent the whole decade preparing, trying to find loopholes, making deals with anything that would listen. By the time I found her, she'd accumulated 17 additional contracts trying to break the first one. His voice went hollow. She'd damned herself 17 times over. There was no saving her. The best I could do was make sure. Demons didn't get to torture her first. How did you do it? Quickly. I told her it wouldn't hurt. I lied. He swallowed hard. It always hurts. Elena reached across the center console, resting her hand on his arm. The physical contact made the bond flare, and suddenly she wasn't just hearing the story. She was there, feeling what he'd felt. A young woman's terror, her desperate, hiccuping sobs, the way she'd closed her eyes and whispered, "Thank you," right before the blade slid home. The weight of her body going limp, the knowledge that he'd just extinguished a light that deserved to keep burning, and underneath it all, the constant war. His angel half screaming that this was murder, sin, damnation. His demon half purring that she'd deserved it. That mercy was just weakness with a prettier name. Neither side winning. Both sides causing agony. "I'm sorry," Elena whispered. "Don't." The word came out sharp. "Don't apologize to me. I'm the monster in this story." "You're not a monster. You're someone who was given impossible choices and did the least terrible thing you could think of. That doesn't make it right." "No," Elena agreed. "But it makes it human." Azrael's laugh was broken. "I'm not human. That's the whole problem. Maybe not technically. But that guilt you're carrying, that self-hatred, that's human as hell." She squeezed his arm. "Monsters don't spend 500 years hating themselves for the things they've done. They just do them and move on." He didn't respond, but she felt something shift in the bond. Not acceptance. Not forgiveness. But maybe the smallest crack in the wall of certainty that he was irredeemable. They drove in silence after that, leaving the city behind. Elena watched the urban sprawl give way to suburbs, then farmland, then forest. The moon was nearly full, painting everything in shades of silver and shadow. She should have been terrified. Should have been second-guessing every choice that led to this moment. Instead, she felt oddly calm, settled, like some part of her had been waiting her whole life for this exact disaster. "Can I ask you something?" Azrael's voice broke the silence as they turned onto a narrow dirt road. "Of course. Why aren't you angry? At your father for selling you. At me for binding you. At the universe for dealing you this hand." He glanced at her, genuine confusion in those mismatched eyes. "You should be furious. You should hate all of us." Elena considered the question. "I was angry. For about 30 seconds after I read my father's letter, I wanted to burn the whole world down." She traced the mark on her chest through her ruined shirt. But anger wouldn't have changed anything. The contract existed whether I raged about it or not. And my father, he was desperate. Watching your child die does things to people. Makes them willing to trade anything, promise anything, if it means one more day. That doesn't make what he did okay. No, but it makes it understandable. She paused. "And as for you binding me, Azrael, you gave me a choice. Maybe it wasn't a great choice. Maybe it was option A, die horribly, or option B, live but everything's complicated now. But it was still a choice. You could have just killed me and been done with it. Instead, you offered me the only out you had, even knowing it would condemn you too. I'm selfish. I didn't want to add a 13th body to the count." "Bullshit." The word came out harder than she intended. "If you were selfish, you would have let the demons take me and walked away. You're not protecting me because it's easy. You're protecting me because somewhere under all that self-loathing, you still believe people deserve better than the hands they're dealt. Through the bond, she felt his emotions spike. Shock, denial, and buried so deep he probably didn't even recognize it anymore. Hope. The monastery appeared suddenly, rising from the trees like a ghost. It was smaller than Elena expected. Maybe a dozen buildings clustered around a central courtyard. Most of the structures were crumbling, roofs caved in, and walls covered in ivy. But the main chapel still stood, its stone walls intact, and its stained glass windows somehow unbroken, despite decades of abandonment. Azrael parked behind the chapel, out of sight from the road. When he killed the engine, the silence was absolute. No traffic sounds, no distant sirens, just wind through trees and the soft chirping of crickets. "We'll be safe here for a few days," he said. "Maybe a week if we're lucky. The wards are old but strong." They got out of the car. Elena's legs were steadier now, the worst of the bonding disorientation fading. She could still feel Azrael's presence in the back of her mind, a constant hum of sensation. But it was becoming more bearable, more like background noise than overwhelming static. The chapel door opened with a groan of ancient hinges. Inside, moonlight streamed through the stained glass, painting. The stone floor in pools of red and blue and gold. Dust motes danced in the light. Wooden pews sat in neat rows, and though they were weathered and cracked, someone had clearly maintained this place once, cared for it. "It's beautiful," Elena whispered. Azrael stood in the doorway, not crossing the threshold. "I can't go in." She turned. "What?" "Consecrated ground. It's still active. Nephilim can't enter without..." He gestured vaguely at himself. "Without it hurting. But you brought us here. For you, you can sleep inside where you're protected. I'll keep watch outside." Elena walked back to the doorway, stopping right at the threshold where moonlight met shadow. "How much does it hurt?" "Elena, tell me. Through the bond, I can feel you holding something back. How much?" His jaw clenched. "Like being flayed. Both halves reject the sanctity. The angel half because I'm tainted, the demon half because it's anathema. If I step inside, it'll trigger the war. I'll lose control. Then we're not staying here." She stepped back outside, into the night. "Don't be stupid. You need rest. You need protection. This is the safest. I'm not sleeping in there while you're out here suffering." Her voice was firm. "We'll find another building. One that's not consecrated. That defeats the purpose of..." "Azrael!" She grabbed his hand, lacing her fingers through his. The contact sent warmth flooding through the bond. "We're in this together now. That means we don't split up. It means if you can't go somewhere, I don't go there either. That's how this works." He stared at their joined hands like he'd never seen anything quite so incomprehensible. When he looked up, his eyes were fully gold for the first time since she'd met him. No red at all. Just pure, luminous gold. "You're going to get yourself killed being loyal to me," he said softly. "Maybe. Or maybe we'll both survive." Elena smiled. "Come on, let's find somewhere we can both get some sleep. We've got 29 days to save your soul. Might as well start rested." They found shelter in what had once been the monastery's library, a stone building with most of its roof still intact and walls thick enough to hold residual warmth. Someone had left behind a few pieces of furniture, a worn couch with springs poking through the cushions, a table missing one leg, shelves empty except for water stains and mouse droppings. It wasn't much, but it was dry and, most importantly, unconsecrated. Azrael built a fire in the old hearth with efficiency that spoke of centuries of practice. Elena watched him work, studying the way he moved. Precise, controlled, every gesture deliberate, like he was afraid that one wrong move would shatter whatever fragile piece he'd constructed around himself. "When was the last time you slept?" she asked as flames began to catch. He didn't look at her. Nephilim don't need sleep the way humans do. That's not what I asked. His hands stilled on the kindling. Through the bond. She felt him calculating whether to lie, whether the truth would worry her more than deception. Finally, 4 months, maybe 5. Elena's chest tightened. That's not sustainable. Nothing about my existence is sustainable. That's rather the point. He stood, brushing ash from his hands. Sleep requires letting your guard down, letting go of control. When I sleep, whichever half is stronger that day takes over. I wake up either having hurt someone or having failed to protect someone. So, I don't sleep. For 5 months. It's not as bad as it sounds. The exhaustion adds up, but slowly. I can function for years between actual rest. Function, Elena repeated. Not live. Function. He finally looked at her, and the weariness in his eyes was staggering. Not just physical, soul deep. The kind of tired that came from fighting yourself every moment of every day for over 5 centuries. I'm sorry, she said softly. That must be so lonely. Something in his expression cracked. Just for a second. Then the mask slammed back into place. You should get some rest. The bond is still settling. Your body needs time to adjust. He was deflecting, changing the subject. Elena let him, but filed away the vulnerability she'd glimpsed for later. Instead, she moved to the couch, lowering herself onto it with a wince. Every muscle ached like she'd run a marathon. The mark on her chest pulsed steadily, warm but not quite comfortable. Will you at least sit? She asked. You don't have to. Sleep. Just don't pace around like a caged animal all night. Azrael hesitated, then lowered himself to the floor near the fire, back against the stone hearth. Not on the couch with her, not close, but not fleeing either. Small victory. They sat in silence for a while, watching flames dance. Elena felt sleep pulling at her, but fought it. Something was nagging at her, a question that had been building since the chapel. The little girl, she said finally, in the courtyard. I saw her during the bonding. You were there when she died. Azrael went completely still. When he spoke, his voice was barely audible. Her name was Lily. Who was she? For a long moment, she didn't think he'd answer. Then, so quietly, she almost missed it. My daughter. The words hit Elena like a physical blow. What? 213 years ago, I broke protocol. Let myself get too close to a human woman. I thought if I could just feel normal for a little while, be something other than a weapon, maybe the war inside would quiet. His laugh was bitter. I was wrong. All I did was create another casualty. Through the bond, Elena felt the memory surfacing, raw and jagged. A woman with kind eyes and a gentle smile, stolen moments of peace. Then the discovery that she was pregnant, the joy and terror that came with it. And finally, inevitably, the Celestials finding out. Nephilim breeding with humans is forbidden, Azrael continued. The offspring are too unstable, too powerful. They have to be eliminated before they mature. He stared into the fire, eyes distant. I begged them to spare her, offered myself for execution in her place. They refused, said Lily had to die and I had to watch, so I'd remember the cost of disobedience. Oh God. Elena's throat was tight. How old was she? 7. The same age you were when your father made his deal. His voice broke. She had your eyes, dark brown, curious, always asking questions about everything. Why is the sky blue? Where do stars go during the day? Do angels dream? He pressed the heels of his hands against his eyes. She asked if angels dream right before they burned her. Elena couldn't stop herself. She slid off the couch onto the floor beside him, wrapping her arms around him from the side. He went rigid, every muscle locking up, but she didn't let go. I'm so sorry, she whispered against his shoulder. I'm so sorry. Don't. But he didn't pull away. I don't deserve comfort for that. I knew the rules. I broke them anyway. She paid the price for my selfishness. You weren't selfish for wanting connection, for wanting to be more than a weapon. I was selfish for thinking I could have both, that I could be Nephilim and father, that I could protect her when I can't even control myself. His whole body was shaking now. Do you know what the worst part is? When they lit the fire, my demon half, it wanted to watch. It was curious, interested in the spectacle, and I had to fight it down while my daughter burned, had to wage war with myself while she screamed for me to save her, and I couldn't. I couldn't save her because I was too busy trying not to kill everyone in that courtyard. Elena tightened her grip. Through the bond, she felt the full weight of what he was describing. The horror of being split, of having part of yourself fascinated by your child's murder while another part shattered with grief, of hating yourself for both reactions, of knowing that your very nature made you too dangerous to protect the people you loved. That's why you kill the sensitives, she said, understanding clicking into place. It's not mercy for them. It's penance for her. Every single one has her eyes. His voice was raw. Every time. I think maybe this time I'll save them. Find a loophole. But there's never a loophole. Just another body. Another failure. Until me. He turned his head to look at her, and his eyes were red-rimmed, tears tracking silently down his face. Until you. You're the first one I haven't failed yet. Then don't fail me now. Elena reached up, cupping his face with both hands. Don't give up before we've even tried. Lily deserved better. All 12 of them deserved better. But you can't change what happened to them. You can only decide what happens next. And if I lose control, if the demon half wins and I hurt you, then I'll pull you back. She pressed her forehead against his. That's what the bond is for, isn't it? I'm your anchor now. Let me be your anchor. Azrael's breath hitched. Through their connection, Elena felt something massive shifting, some wall he'd built centuries ago cracking under pressure. He was terrified. Absolutely terrified of hoping that this time might be different. I don't know how to stop fighting, he whispered. It's all I've done for 500 years. Then we'll learn together. She pulled back just enough to meet his eyes. Gold and red swirled together, neither fully dominant. Starting with sleep. Real. Sleep. Not 5 months of exhaustion ignored. I can't. Yes, you can. I'm here. I'll keep watch. If you start to slip, I'll feel it through the bond and wake you up. Elena, you have no idea what you're offering. If I lose control while unconscious, you won't, because I won't let you. Her voice was firm. Trust me. Just this once. Trust that maybe, you don't have to do this alone anymore. The internal war raged across his face. Fear, doubt, desperate, painful hope. Finally, he nodded, barely perceptible, but real. Okay, he breathed. Okay. Elena guided him to lie down on the floor near the fire, his head pillowed on his folded coat. He looked wrong like this, vulnerable, human. Every line of his body was tense, waiting for catastrophe. She settled beside him, close enough that their shoulders touched, close enough that the bond hummed between them, warm and steady. Close your eyes, she murmured. He obeyed, though his jaw remained clenched. Elena rested one hand on his chest, over the mark. Immediately she felt the chaos inside him, angel and demon snarling at each other, neither willing to yield, both demanding dominance. But underneath that, buried so deep he probably didn't recognize it anymore, was exhaustion. Bone-deep, soul-crushing exhaustion. Listen to my voice, she said softly. Focus on the bond. Feel how steady it is. You're not alone in there anymore. I'm right here with you. His breathing gradually slowed. The tension in his shoulders eased by fractions. "That's it," Elena encouraged. "Let go. Just for a little while. Let go." She felt the moment it happened. The moment Azrael finally, after months of brutal wakefulness, surrendered to sleep. The war inside him didn't stop. It never stopped. But it quieted, muted, like turning down the volume on a scream. His face in sleep looked younger, softer, almost peaceful. Elena kept her hand on his chest, monitoring the bond. True to her word, she stayed awake, watching over him as fire burned low and moon tracked across the sky. Every time she felt the balance inside him start to tip too far one way or the other, she whispered reassurance, sent calming thoughts through their connection, pulled him back to center. It was exhausting, like trying to hold together something that wanted desperately to fly apart. But she didn't stop, because for the first time in 537 years, Azrael was resting, really resting, and Elena would burn herself to ash before she let anything take that peace away from him. Elena woke to the smell of smoke and the sensation of wrongness crawling across her skin. The fire had died to embers hours ago, leaving the library in pre-dawn gray. Azrael was still beside her, but something had changed. His body was rigid, muscles locked, and through the bond she felt it. The demon half surging, taking advantage of his unconscious state, trying to claw its way to dominance. "No," she whispered, tightening her grip on his chest. "No, you don't get him." His eyes snapped open, pure crimson. No gold at all. Elena's heart slammed against her ribs, but she didn't move, didn't flinch. Through the bond, she could feel both halves of him now. The angel part screaming warnings, trapped and helpless, while the demon part purred with satisfaction at finally being unchained. "Well," Azrael's voice came out wrong, layered with something ancient and hungry. "This is unexpected. The little human is still here." "Azrael," Elena said firmly. "Come back. Azrael is occupied." The demon half smiled, and it was a terrible thing. Beautiful and cruel and completely devoid of warmth. "You should run, Elena. That's what the smart ones do when they realize what I am. I know what you are. You're half of him. The half he's been trying to strangle for 5 centuries. She kept her hand pressed over the mark, feeling it pulse frantically beneath her palm. "And I'm not running." He sat up in one fluid movement, fast enough that she should have been startled. But Elena had felt the motion coming through the bond, a split second before it happened, her own body already adjusting. "You're not afraid." He studied her with those crimson eyes, head tilted. "You should be afraid. Do you know how many people I've killed? How many I've wanted to kill? 13, counting Lily." Elena's voice remained steady. "I felt every single one during the bonding. I know exactly what you've done. And yet you stayed, wrapped your little human arms around this body and promised to anchor it." He leaned closer, and she could feel heat radiating off him in waves. "Tell me, Elena, what makes you think you're strong enough to hold me? Because you're not the enemy." She met his gaze without wavering. "You're just the part of him that's been beaten down and vilified and told you're wrong for existing. No wonder you're angry. No wonder you fight back." Something flickered in those red eyes. Confusion, maybe. Or surprise. "The angel half thinks you're evil," Elena continued. "You think the angel half is weak, and Azrael spends every moment of every day trying to make you destroy each other. But you're both him. You're both pieces of the same person. And neither of you can win, because winning means he loses." Philosophical, but irrelevant. The demon half smile returned, sharper this time. "I'm awake now, in control. Why would I give that up? Because you're exhausted too." Elena shifted, kneeling, so she could face him properly. "I can feel it through the bond. You're just as tired as the angel half. Maybe more, because you have to fight twice as hard for half as much time." His expression went carefully blank. I don't tire. Liar. She reached up slowly, telegraphing the movement, giving him time to pull away. He didn't. Her fingers brushed his cheek, and the contact made the bond flare bright and hot between them. You're tired of fighting. Tired of being hated. Tired of only existing. In stolen moments when his guard is down. You want peace just as much as he does. For a long moment, nothing. Then, so quietly she almost missed it. There is no peace for things like us. Maybe there wasn't before, but we're trying something new now. Elena let her hand fall to his shoulder, maintaining contact. What if you didn't have to fight for dominance? What if you could both exist, both be present, without it being a war? Impossible. But his voice had lost some of its edge. So was me surviving the bonding. So was the Celestials giving us 30 days. So was you choosing to save me instead of kill me. She squeezed his shoulder gently. We're already doing impossible things. What's one more? The crimson in his eyes flickered. Gold bled through at the edges, fighting back now that Elena had created an opening. She felt the internal struggle intensify through the bond. Not demon trying to suppress angel, or angel trying to suppress demon, but both sides suddenly, desperately, trying to figure out what it would mean to coexist. I don't know how, he said. And now the voice was Azrael's again, fractured and raw. Both halves speaking at once. I don't know how to be both. Then we learn. Together. Elena moved closer, eliminating the space between them. But first, you need to stop treating half of yourself like a disease that needs curing. The demon half isn't your enemy. It's you. It's the part that wanted to watch Lily burn. It's also the part that gives you the strength to keep going when the guilt should have destroyed you centuries ago. Her voice was soft but unyielding. It's the part that let you survive 500 years of self-hatred. It's the part that made you fast enough and strong enough to protect me from 3 Celestials. You don't get to keep the benefits and pretend the source is evil. Azrael's breath came faster. Through the bond, Elena felt tectonic plates shifting, fundamental beliefs cracking under pressure. He'd spent so long believing the demon half was corruption, contamination, sin made flesh. The idea that it might be something else, something necessary, even protective, was devastating in its implications. If it's not evil, he whispered, then what am I? Exactly what you are. Angel and demon. Light and shadow. Both. Not broken. Not an abomination. Just both. A sound escaped him, halfway between a laugh and a sob. His hands came up to cover his face, and Elena felt the dam breaking through their connection. 537 years of self-loathing and shame and hatred pouring out in a flood. She wrapped her arms around him, holding tight as he shook. No words, no platitudes, just presence. Just the steady assurance through the bond that he wasn't alone in this moment. They stayed like that as the sun rose, pale light filtering through gaps in the roof. Gradually, Azrael's breathing steadied. The tremors subsided. When he finally lowered his hands, his eyes were swirled gold and red in equal measure, neither side dominant. I don't know if I can do this, he said hoarsely. You don't have to know. You just have to try. He searched her face, looking for something. Doubt, maybe. Fear, regret. Whatever he found made his expression crack into something vulnerable and wondering. Why? The question was barely audible. Why are you doing this? You could have run. Could have found a way to break the bond. Instead, you're here, holding together someone you barely know, trying to fix. Something that's been broken for centuries. Why? Elena considered the question. Really considered it. Why was she fighting so hard for someone she'd met less than 2 days ago? Someone who'd admitted to murder? Someone who was dangerous and damaged and dragging her into a war she didn't understand. The answer, when it came, was simple, obvious, terrifying. Because when I look at you, I don't see a monster or an abomination or a killer. She cupped his face with both hands, forcing him to hold. Her gaze. I see someone who's been at war with himself so long he forgot there could be peace. Someone who's spent centuries believing he doesn't deserve to exist, let alone be happy. And I can't walk away from that. I won't. Elena, I'm not done. Her voice was firm. You saved me, not just from demons or from death. You gave me a choice when I had none. You condemned yourself to save someone you didn't know. That's not monster behavior, Azrael. That's human. That's good. And if no one's ever told you that before, if no one's ever seen past the Nephilim to the person underneath, then they were wrong. They were all wrong. His eyes were shining. You can't fix me with pretty words. I'm not trying to fix you. I'm trying to help you see that maybe you were never as broken as everyone told you were. The bond between them flared, bright and warm and steady. And for just a moment, just one perfect, fragile moment, Elena felt the war inside him go quiet. Not ended, not resolved, but quiet. Both halves of him sitting in uncertain truce, too surprised by the possibility of peace to remember how to fight. Azrael leaned forward, pressing his forehead against hers. 26 days left. Then we'd better make them count. If this doesn't work, if I hurt you, you won't. You can't know that. Yes, Elena said quietly. I can. Because I'm not in this alone. And neither are you. Not anymore. Outside, birds began to sing, greeting the dawn. Inside the ruined library, 2 people sat wrapped around each other, held together by blood and choice, and the desperate hope that maybe, just maybe, broken things could learn to be whole. They had 18 days left when Elena noticed the changes. It started small, a faint golden shimmer at the edge of her vision when she looked in the broken mirror they'd found in one of the monastery's storage rooms. Her reflection looked normal at first glance, but if she tilted her head just right, caught the light at the correct angle, something else showed through. Something not quite human anymore. It's progressing faster than I expected, Azrael said from the doorway. He'd been watching her for the last few minutes, she realized. Through the bond, she felt his concern edged with guilt. What's progressing? But Elena already knew. Had known since day 3 when she'd stopped needing sleep. Since day 7 when she'd heard a conversation happening half a mile away. Since day 10 when she'd instinctively created a ward around the library that made even Azrael hesitate before crossing. The transformation. He moved into the room, standing just behind her so they were both visible in the cracked mirror. The bond isn't just connecting us anymore. It's changing you, making you more like me. Elena studied their reflections side by side. Azrael with his mismatched eyes and the shadows that clung to him. Her with her increasingly luminous skin and the way light seemed to bend around her fingers. Will I become Nephilim? Her voice was calmer than she felt. I don't know. This has never happened before. His hand hovered near her shoulder, not quite touching. Elena, I'm so sorry. I didn't think the bond would alter you this fundamentally. I thought it would just connect us, not remake you. Maybe that's what connection means. She turned to face him. When you truly bind yourself to someone, you can't help but become a little bit of what they are. That's a romantic way of saying I'm destroying your humanity, or you're expanding what humanity means. Elena caught his hand, lacing their fingers together. The mark on her chest pulsed in rhythm with his. I'm not upset about the changes, Azrael. I'm curious. What am I becoming? Through the bond, she felt his uncertainty. He genuinely didn't know. Nephilim were born, not made. Humans who bonded with supernatural beings didn't typically survive long enough to transform. They were in completely uncharted territory. Your soul is fragmenting, he said finally. Like mine, angel and demon and human, all trying to coexist in one body. But unlike me, you weren't born into war. You chose it. That might make all the difference. Or it might destroy me, I know. Elena squeezed his hand. I also know that over the last 18 days, you've slept 6 full nights. Actually slept, not just collapsed from exhaustion. The war inside you has gotten quieter. Not gone, but quieter. That's progress, Azrael. Real progress. It was true. Ramiel's test had been to show stabilization within 30 days, and they were succeeding. Slowly, painfully, but succeeding. Azrael's eyes no longer shifted as violently between gold and red. The temperature fluctuations around him had steadied. He could hold conversations without suddenly stopping mid-sentence to wrestle with internal conflicts. The cost was Elena's humanity. Fair trade, in her estimation. He didn't agree. We need to talk about what happens when the 30 days are up, Azrael said. We present ourselves to Ramiel. Show that you're stabilizing. Hope they honor the agreement. And if they don't, if they decide you're too transformed, too dangerous, if they see what's happening to you as evidence that the bond is harmful rather than helpful. Elena had thought about this. Late at night, when Azrael finally slept and she kept watch, she'd run through scenarios. Most of them ended badly. Some ended in death. A few ended in something worse. Then we run, she said. Simply. We've gotten good at running. Elena, I'm serious. If they try to execute us, we fight. We run. We find somewhere else to hide. Maybe there are other Nephilim out there who'd help. Maybe there are places where even Celestials can't reach. She pulled him closer. I'm not giving up on this. On us. Not after we've come this far. Azrael's expression was anguished. You're willing to spend the rest of your life as a fugitive. For me. Yes. You're willing to lose your humanity. For me. I'm not losing anything. Elena's voice was firm. I'm gaining strength, power, understanding, connection to you. That's not loss, Azrael. That's evolution. You're insane. But there was warmth in his voice now, affection bleeding through the bond. We've established that. She rose on her toes, pressing a kiss to his cheek. The contact sent sparks racing across her skin. Now come on. I want to try something. She led him outside to the courtyard between buildings. The sun was setting, painting everything in shades of amber and rose. Elena had been planning this for days, waiting until she felt ready, until she felt strong enough. During the bonding, I saw your wings, she said, releasing his hand and stepping back. Just for a moment. Gold and black, tangled together. Do you ever let them out? Azrael went very still. No. Why not? Because they're the most visible manifestation of what I am. Angel and demon. Both wrong, both right. Both. He trailed off. Both. Beautiful. Elena finished. Show me, please. Elena, my wings are dangerous. Sharp. The feathers are bladed. I could hurt you by accident. You won't. I trust you. Through the bond, she felt his internal struggle, the vulnerability of showing her something he kept hidden even from himself, the terror of being seen fully, the desperate, painful hope that maybe she wouldn't flinch. Finally, he nodded. The air around him shimmered. Reality bent, twisted, made room for something too large to exist in 3 dimensions, and then they unfurled. His wings were massive, easily spanning 15 feet tip to tip. The left wing was pure gold, each feather glowing with soft light, beautiful and terrible in its perfection. The right wing was midnight black, feathers sharp as obsidian, drinking in light rather than reflecting it. Where they met at his back, gold and black tangled together, neither fully separate nor fully merged. Elena's breath caught. They're incredible. They're monstrous. There you. She moved closer, reaching out slowly. Azrael tensed but didn't pull away. Her fingers brushed the golden wing first, and it was warm, almost hot, humming with barely contained power. Then the black wing, cold as winter, Sharp enough that she had to be careful not to cut herself, but somehow just as beautiful. "How do they feel?" she asked softly. "Heavy. They always feel heavy, like carrying the weight of what I am on my back." His voice was rough. "When I was younger, I tried to cut them off. Thought maybe if I could remove the physical proof of my nature, the internal war would stop. It didn't work. They grew back within hours." Elena's heart ached for him. For the younger version of Azrael who'd hated himself so much he'd tried to literally carve away pieces. "Do they hurt?" "Not physically, but emotionally." He paused, searching for words. "It's like having a constant reminder that I don't belong anywhere. Too tainted for heaven, too divine for hell. Just wrong. Not wrong." Elena moved around to face him, standing close enough that his wings curved forward slightly, unconsciously protective. "Different, unique. The only being in existence who's exactly what you are. That's just another word for alone." It was. Past tense. She reached up, cupping his face. "You're not alone anymore." Azrael's eyes, gold and red swirled together, searched hers. "The bond is changing you faster. I can feel it. In another week, maybe 2, you'll have wings too. Half-formed. Incomplete. You'll be trapped between human and Nephilim, and it will hurt, Elena. The transformation isn't gentle." "I know." She did know. Could feel the pressure building under her shoulder blades, like something trying to break through skin that wasn't ready yet. "I'm not afraid. You should be." "Why? Because I'll be like you?" She smiled. "That doesn't sound like something to fear. That sounds like something to hope for." His wings trembled. Through the bond, Elena felt the wave of emotion that crashed through him. Gratitude and terror and something deeper. Something he was afraid to name. "I love you," he said suddenly, words tumbling out like confession. "I know it's too soon. I know it's probably just the bond making me feel things I shouldn't. But I love you, Elena. And that terrifies me, because everyone I've ever loved has died because of what I am." Elena's heart stuttered, then steadied. "It's not too soon. And it's not just the bond." She pressed, her forehead to his, feeling his wings curve around them both, cocooning them in gold and shadow. "I love you too. I think I started loving you the moment you offered me a choice when I had none. And I'm not going to die, Azrael. I'm going to transform, evolve, become something new, something that can stand beside you without breaking. What if you break anyway? Then you'll help put me back together, same way I'm helping you." She pulled back just enough to meet his eyes. "That's what love means, isn't it? Not just holding each other during the easy parts, but staying through the transformation, through the pain, through the becoming." Azrael made a sound halfway between a laugh and a sob, pulling her against his chest. His wings wrapped fully around them, shutting out the world. In that moment, they were the only two beings in existence. Connected. Bound. Becoming something neither angel nor demon nor human, but all three in none. 12 days left, he whispered against her. "Hair. Then we'd better make them count." Day 30 arrived with snow. Elena stood in the monastery courtyard watching flakes drift from a gray sky, collecting in her outstretched palm. They didn't melt. Her body temperature had shifted over the last 12 days, fluctuating between furnace hot and ice cold depending on which aspect was dominant. Right now, she burned. The snow hissed and evaporated before it could fully settle. Behind her, she felt Azrael's presence through the bond. He was calmer than he'd been in centuries. The war inside him hadn't ended, would probably never fully end, but it had evolved into something closer to negotiation than violence. His angel half and demon half were learning, slowly and painfully, to share space, to coexist. The cost had been written across Elena's body. Wings pressed against the inside of her skin, not quite ready to emerge, but undeniably there. Her eyes had developed the same dual-color quality as Azrael's. Left eye threaded with gold. Right eye bleeding crimson at the edges. Marks had appeared along her collarbones and down her arms, patterns that looked almost like circuitry, glowing faintly when she used the abilities that had awakened in her. She was no longer human. Not entirely. But she wasn't Nephilim either. She was something new. Something unprecedented. "They're here," Azrael said quietly, moving to stand beside her. Elena felt them too. 3 presences descending, massive and ancient, and absolutely certain of their authority. Ramiel, Cassiel, and the third whose name she'd never learned. The one with the gentle voice that somehow made everything it said more devastating. The angels materialized in the center of the courtyard, light bending around them. Ramiel looked exactly as Elena remembered. Features shifting, impossible to pin down. Eyes like winter sky. The others flanked it. Silent witnesses. 30 days have passed. Ramiel said without preamble. "It is time for judgment." Azrael's hand found Elena's, fingers lacing together. Through the bond, she felt his fear. Not for himself, for her. "We're ready," Elena said, voice steady despite her racing heart. Ramiel's gaze moved between them, assessing. "Azrael, do you still experience the war between your natures?" "Yes." No point in lying. They would know. But it's different now. Quieter. More manageable. Define manageable. Azrael's jaw tightened. "I can sleep without losing control. I can exist without constant pain." The angel. Half and demon half still disagree, still fight for dominance. But they're learning to take turns, rather than trying to destroy each other. It's not peace, but it's closer than I've ever been. And this change, Cassiel interjected sharply, is due to the human? Yes. Azrael's grip on Elena's hand tightened. She's my anchor. When the war gets too intense, she pulls me back to center, reminds me that I'm both halves, not just one or the other. Ramiel turned its full attention to Elena. The weight of that gaze was crushing, like standing under the ocean. "And you, Elena Carvalho, what has the bond cost you?" Elena met its eyes without flinching. "My humanity. Partially. I'm changing. Transforming into something that's never existed before." "Does this transformation cause you pain?" "Yes. No point in lying about that either. It feels like breaking and rebuilding at the same time. Like my body can't decide what it wants to be, so it's trying to be everything at once. Yet you persist." "Yes. Why?" The question hung in the frozen air. Elena could feel Azrael's anxiety bleeding through the bond, his fear that she would finally admit this had all been a mistake, that the cost was too high. But she'd known her answer for days. Had known it probably since the moment she'd stood between Azrael and Ramiel's blade in the chapel. "Because love isn't about staying safe," Elena said quietly. "It's about choosing someone even when the choice is hard. Even when it costs you. Everything you were. I'm not in pain because of Azrael. I'm in pain because I'm becoming something strong enough to stand beside him. That's not his fault. That's my choice." Silence. The snow continued to fall, hissing against Elena's skin. Then the third angel spoke, voice soft as always. "You understand that you cannot go back. Even if we sever the bond, you will never be fully human again. The transformation is irreversible. I understand. And you accept this fate willingly." "I do." The angel tilted its head. "Why do you love him, child? He is Nephilim, abomination, killer of your kind. What do you see in him that makes this sacrifice worthwhile?" Elena looked at Azrael. Really looked at him. Saw the being who'd spent 537 years hating himself for things outside his control. Who'd killed 12 people and carried the guilt like physical wounds. Who'd offered her a choice when he could have just ended her suffering with a blade. Who'd condemned himself to save her. Who was learning, day by painful day, that maybe he deserved to exist after all. I see someone who's been told his entire life that he's wrong for existing, Elena said. Someone who believed it so deeply he tried to erase himself. Someone who's never known peace, never known acceptance, never known what it means to be loved for all of what he is, instead of despite it. Her voice strengthened. I see someone worth saving, worth transforming for, worth loving. Azrael made a broken sound beside her. Through the bond, Elena felt his emotions crashing through, love and gratitude, and the terrifying belief that maybe, just maybe, he was worth what she said he was. Ramiel was silent for a long moment. Then, Cassiel, your assessment. The golden-eyed angel's expression was hard. The Nephilim shows improvement, undeniable, but the human is becoming unstable. In another month, she'll be neither one thing nor another, a liability, or an asset, the third angel countered gently. She is creating a new category, human Nephilim hybrid, something we have never encountered, something that might bridge the gap between our world and theirs, something that might destroy everything. Cassiel shot back. Or save it. The third angel looked at Elena. She loves him, genuinely, without reservation. That kind of love has toppled kingdoms and rewritten fate. Who are we to say it cannot rewrite nature itself? Ramiel raised one hand, silencing them both. Azrael. Elena. Step. Forward. They moved together, still holding hands. Elena's heart hammered so hard she could feel it in her throat. We have deliberated, Ramiel said, and reached a conclusion. Azrael, you are no longer sentenced to execution. The bond has achieved what we deemed impossible. It has brought you closer to stability than 5 centuries of solitary suffering ever did. Relief flooded through the bond so powerfully Elena's knees nearly buckled. However, Ramiel continued, and the relief crystallized into ice. You are both exiled. You cannot return to human society. You cannot interact with other Nephilim. You exist now in the space between worlds. Too changed to belong anywhere. Too unprecedented to be allowed free reign. We are granting you life, but not freedom. Where do we go? Azrael's voice was hoarse. Wherever you can survive. There are thin places, liminal spaces, territories unclaimed by heaven or hell. Find one, make it yours, live. Ramiel paused. And should Elena complete her transformation successfully, should she become the first stable human Nephilim hybrid, we will reconsider your exile. But until then, you remain outside all jurisdiction, outside all protection, meaning anyone who wants to kill us can try, Elena said flatly. Yes. She looked at Azrael, found him already looking at her. Through the bond, wordless communication passed between them. Together, always. Worth it? Yes. Afraid? Terrified? Going anyway? Absolutely. We accept, Elena said. Cassiel made a sound of disgust. You're condemning yourselves to a half-life. Fugitives forever. Hunted. Isolated. For what? For love? Yes. Elena's voice was firm. For love. Because he's worth it. Because I'm worth it. Because what we're creating together is worth more than safety, or acceptance, or belonging to a world that was never built for either of us anyway. The third angel smiled. Actually smiled. Go, children. Find your thin place. Build your life. And perhaps one day when you have become what you are meant to be, the worlds will be ready for you. The angels began to fade, light dimming. Wait, Azrael called out. I need to know. Was this always the plan? Give us 30 days knowing we'd succeed? Knowing you'd exile us? Ramiel's shifting features settled briefly into something almost kind. We gave you 30 days hoping you would succeed. What you do with the life we've returned to you is yours to decide. Use it well. Then they were gone. Elena and Azrael stood, alone in the courtyard, snow still falling around them. exiled, transformed, bound together in ways that defied every law ever written. "So," Elena said after a long moment, "where should we go?" Azrael pulled her close, his wings manifesting to wrap around them both. "I know a place, an island, middle of nowhere. Reality bends strange there, like the world can't quite decide what it wants to be. We'd be safe. For a while, at least." "Sounds perfect." He pulled back to look at her, eyes gold and red and full of wonder. "You're really okay with this? With exile? With transformation? With spending your life on the run with someone like me?" Elena rose on her toes, pressing a kiss to his lips. The contact sent warmth flooding through the bond, golden and crimson light twining together. "I'm not spending my life on the run," she said against his mouth. "I'm spending my life with you. Everything else is just details." Azrael's laugh was wet, his eyes shining. "I love you. God, I love you. I love you too." Elena felt the wings pressing against her shoulder blades shift, ready. Soon. Maybe days, maybe weeks. But soon she'd be fully transformed, fully whatever she was becoming. "Now come on, let's go find our thin place, our home. Together, always together." They left the monastery as snow covered their footprints, erasing all evidence they'd ever been there. Two beings who'd been born wrong, made wrong, told they were wrong, walking into exile with their heads held high. Because sometimes love wasn't about fitting into the world as it existed. Sometimes love was about creating a new world entirely. And sometimes, broken things didn't need fixing. They just needed someone willing to hold them through the breaking, through the transformation, through the becoming. Elena's eyes flashed gold and red as she looked back one last time at the place that had sheltered them. Then she turned forward, toward whatever future they would build with their own hands. She was no longer human. Not entirely, but she was free, loved, and becoming. That was enough. That was everything. Elena's story forces us to confront an impossible question. What would you sacrifice for love? Not the easy, comfortable kind of love that fits neatly into the life you've already built, but the kind that demands you burn down everything you are and rise from the ashes as something unrecognizable. She chose transformation over safety, exile over acceptance, a future without guarantees over a present that promised only death. She looked at a being the entire universe had condemned as an abomination and saw someone worth saving, worth becoming a monster for. And maybe that's what real love is. Not finding someone who completes you, but finding someone worth breaking for, worth rebuilding for, worth becoming alongside even when the world screams that you're both wrong for existing. Azrael spent 537 years believing he was irredeemable, that the war inside him was punishment for simply being born. He carried 12 bodies like stones around his neck, convinced that mercy-killing was all he deserved to offer the world, until Elena refused to let him reduce himself to his worst moments. She didn't fix him. You can't fix someone who was never broken, just told they were. Instead, she held space for all of him. The angel and the demon. The killer and the protector. The monster and the man. She proved that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is love. Someone exactly as they are, fractured edges and all, and trust that your love won't make them whole. It'll make them brave enough to stop fighting themselves. So ask yourself, if you had 72 hours to live, would you choose certain death or uncertain transformation? Would you run from someone dangerous, or run toward them knowing they might be the only person who truly sees you? Would you spend your life safe and small, or risk everything to become something the universe has never seen before? Elena and Azrael chose the terrifying path. They chose each other. And in doing so, they rewrote what it means to be human, to be divine, to be damned. Their story doesn't end with happily ever after. It ends with, we're still becoming, and that's enough. Maybe that's the most honest kind of love story there is. If this story moved you, If it made you question what you'd be willing to sacrifice for the people you love, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear that. Broken things don't need fixing. They just need to be seen. Subscribe to stay with us for more stories that will wreck you in the best possible way. Stories about the messy, terrifying, beautiful reality of choosing love even when it costs everything. Because sometimes the best stories aren't about people who have it all figured out. They're about people brave enough to figure it out together, one impossible day at a time.